Hi folks, this is Dr. Rob CYWES. I am the Carb Addiction Doc, and today we're going to go down the pathway of understanding what I call the keto pendulum. And it's so important because this is screwed up so badly in the ketogenic environment and by a lot of the evangelical gum flappers on the internet that believe that their 6 months of being on a keto diet is God's gift to healthcare. It doesn't work that way, folks, because fundamentally, the ketogenic diet is there to restore a pendulum swing in our diet toward insulin resistance. So the way the human body works is the human body uses, the cells of the human body uses both fat and sugar as a fuel source. And it uses it variably. Most cells use those two things variably. There are a few cells that can only use sugar. All cells can use sugar or a little bit of fat. But there is a cycle where at times cells depend on fat and at other times they depend more on sugar. And it's not a one or the other. It's kind of an upregulation or a downregulation. And therefore the human body ideally cycles daily through periods of gluconeogenesis, where it's creating and using sugar, and then ketogenesis, where it's creating and using ketones. And in the background, there's always what we call non-esterified fatty acids, or NEFA, which is the basal supply of fat. So there's a supply of fat that is relatively continuous to the human body. And then there's this fluctuation of sugar versus fat, and they should be equal and opposite to each other in a healthy, functioning human being. That's cycling. What happens in the modern American diet is we shift all of this towards sugar consumption and high insulin that instead of cycling is a flat line. So now your body is primarily using sugar and it's really not able to use fat effectively or ketones effectively because of the overwhelming abundance of sugar. And what the ketogenic diet does is it swings that pendulum from primarily almost exclusively sugar dominant all the way across to becoming fat adapted, where the cells primarily are conditioned to overuse fat and underuse sugar. We call that glucose sparing, which is the exact opposite of the sugar side. And there your insulin levels go super low, your glucagon gets high, which is release of fat, glucagon growth hormone are high. They release fat, they break down the fat so that the fat is available from your fat cells, from your diet as a fuel source, and very, very little sugar is being created or needed. And that, when that pendulum swings that way, most people don't understand this. I have the blood work to prove it in my veteran patients. That is as toxic as this. When that pendulum swings either side. And you know, the bizarre part is the two biological pictures look very, very similar. The biggest difference is here, your insulin's super low. There it's insulin resistant. Here it's just inactive. It's almost like you're almost behaving like a type 1 diabetic who can't or won't produce insulin. But we see a rise in blood sugar. We see a rise in triglycerides. We see a rise in lipids. We see a rise in uric acid. We see all those bad things. So yes, we want to shift the pendulum this way from the standard American diet, but then we want to shift the pendulum back to being in the middle, where we're getting cycling. And that is the way the human body is designed to function. It's designed to go through daily cycles of gluconeogenesis, dominant under the influence of glucagon, and then under the influence of glucagon, or sugar consumption where your sugars are high under the influence of insulin, and then insulin goes down, glucagon goes up, and you're producing ketones and maybe some sugar from amino acids. You want to go through that cycling. And we have to help people to restore that cycling. It's not just about eating fat or just about eating protein. It's about how you flux those in your body. And for those of you that are fat-adapted veterans, it is not okay. It is not okay to stay on the high-fat side. That's what we call your lean mass hyper-responders. That's not a lean mass hyper-responder. That's somebody who's as sick as this. Yes, I said as sick as your diabetes, obesity people. At least by the numbers. So what we have to help everybody to do is cross over and eventually get that pendulum in the middle. And the way we do that is to cycle our diet. Now, the ideal would be as Ted Naiman and a few others who don't understand carbohydrate addiction at all, who do not understand carbohydrate addiction because it has never been their lifestyle. They advocate for the reintroduction of sugar. Single worst thing you can do, because as an addict, there's no way I can control my relationship with sugar. That's like asking an alcoholic who's been sober for 5 years to drink 1 glass of wine every day. Doesn't go so well. Or for a heroin addict just to use a little bit of heroin on Tuesday mornings. That's going to work well, isn't it? Well, that's what these guys are asking you to do because they don't comprehend the concept of human behavior. All they're looking at is biology because they don't interact with people like me. Not that I'm the doctor, I'm the fat guy as a human being. And there's no way on God's earth I can do that. So there is a different way to do that. We stay ultra low carb, you maintain your carbohydrate addiction routes, but you slowly increase your protein consumption as lean protein and you reduce your fat, but you cycle those too. And we have a whole methodology of doing that. So if you are that person who's corrected on a ketogenic diet and wants to come back to the middle, or if somebody who's really not that ill but you want to improve yourself, give us a shout. Because we have that methodology and we can test your blood work. But understand that gluconeogenesis and ketogenesis should exist side by side in kind of just a vibrational way, not huge switches of those. Just vibrations, slightly higher on glucagon, slightly higher on insulin, and you want to be able to trigger those with your diet because they are responsive to your diet. Give us a call if you want to find out how. Set up a visit, set up a consult. 561-517-0642. If you look at the show notes below here, all that information and access to us is in there. And if there's value to this concept, if you want to support this work, if you want to support this research and these videos, throw us some money on our Patreon account at Carb Addiction Doc, or send us some PayPal money. Even a couple of dollars is fine. Robert@jackschildren.com on PayPal. And we can use that money to further our work, to further our research, to bring this information to you. I hope this helps. I hope it makes you think. I hope that it gets you away from being, I've got to eat so much fat that it's all okay to eat as much fat as I want to, or no, fat's bad for you. Neither of those two polarized pendulum swings are correct. The correct, and it's not moderation, the correct is cycling in a vibrational way. I am the Carb Addiction Doc. Give us a shout. Keep watching these videos. Thanks so much.